Hi, I'm Rob, and in this video we'll show you how to replace the motor on a designer roller or designer screen shade cassette with PowerView. Alright, so here we are looking at our designer screen shade, and what we've got here is the motor here on the right side of the shade. Now I want to go ahead and work on this, but before I do, I want to remove the battery wand retainer from the back of the headrail so this isn't rocking around on this retainer. I'm going to go ahead and lift up on the battery retainer tangs there. Lifting up releases it, and it releases out of the headrail very easily. I can reuse that component. I'm going to come over here to the end cap of the shade, and if I look at the end cap, once I remove it, there's tape on the inside of that end cap. So I'm going to come up underneath the end cap, I'm going to pull out on it, but I'm going to stick a screwdriver up in there and kind of stab through the tape. What I'm looking at here is the tape that can hold the end cap into place. I'm actually driving the screwdriver through that tape. If I don't do that, I'm possibly going to break that end cap off. Go ahead and remove the screws here on the end of the shade. What I'm going to do now is grab the end plate here while holding the fabric in place. So as I'm moving this out, you're going to see this rubber feature wants to hang onto the tube. So I'm going to really hold onto the tube tight and rock it out of place here. And if I look here on the end of the motor, there's 4 features here on the rotator and the motor drive that line up with features inside the roller tube. 4 features to drive it, 4 features to hold it in the tube. So let's take a look at inserting the motor into place. One thing I want to watch out for is over the radius of this rail, it's really easy to insert the motor in and get the wire pinched between the end plate and the rail itself. So I want to take the wire and make sure it's coming down out the bottom of the motor to go ahead and insert this into place. If it gets pinched, that could really cut the wire off or crimp the wire so power's not flowing correctly to the shade. To move forward, I'm going to go ahead and line the interior features of the motor up with the interior features of the shade, and it slides into place. It doesn't have to be in any special orientation other than the 4 features lining up. I'm going to run the motor over into place here, and same thing with the features on the collar here. Going to go ahead and line those features up with the interior features of the tube and drive that into place. And you can see it slides in once it's lined up very easily. Now, what am I doing here? I haven't pushed my motor all the way into place. I want to make sure I haven't got this wire caught between the end plate and the rail for the shade. So I want to make sure this wire's coming out the bottom of the shade, and we're looking good there. We haven't pinched our wire in any way. It's nice and safe back here underneath the shade. I want to get all 4 screws back in place. I don't want to over tighten them because I could strip out the aluminum, but I want them on there nice and snug. To help hold this end cap into place, I have this double stick tape I'm going to apply to the shade. Got a couple of pieces of double stick here to help hold that end cap into place. Go ahead and peel my double stick tape, bring in the end cap, and line the features of the end cap up with the shade. Now I like to start with the top feature here, line it up, and I don't want to just go ramming it into place. I want to make sure it's in nice and even all around the radius there, and make sure you've applied it to that tape completely. And what we're going to do is reinstall the battery wand retainer. We're going to put the bottom feature here on the bottom end and just rock that top feature into place, and it snaps right on there. Then we can go ahead and insert the battery and plug the battery into the shade. As you see me insert the battery wand into the shade, you should get a green indicator letting you know the shade's powered up. Remember, the shade has a new motor in it, and that motor has none of the previous information that was programmed. The top limit, the bottom limit, all of that's gone because it's a new motor. What we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and run that motor in the up direction and have it stall at the top of the shade, setting the top limit. And before I set any other limits on the shade, I have to set that top limit. So it's come up to the top of the shade and it's stalled at the top. I can't set the bottom limit unless the shade knows where the top of the shade is. Now, what I've done here is I've hung a tape measure on the side of the shade from the top of the cassette. What I'm going to do now is set the bottom limit for this shade at 27 inches, which is right here at the top of the tape measure. What I need to understand is this shade needs to be on a radio frequency group to set the bottom limit. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put my remote into program mode. I'm going to press the group number. So now I'm in program mode with group number 1 selected. I'm going to press open and the manual button on the shade and release at the same time. The shade jogs to indicate that it is on group number 1. What I want to do now is take the remote out of programming mode. I'm out of programming mode. I'm going to go ahead and illuminate group 1 because the shade's on group 1. I'm going to press the close button and the manual button at the same time. And what that does is it eliminates a bottom limit. Now there was no bottom limit, but we have to eliminate it before we can set the bottom limit. What I'm going to do now is move the shade to the bottom desired position, which is right here at the top of the tape. So we've got a good bottom limit here set at 27 inches. What I'm going to do now here is place the remote into programming mode. And we're going to press the close button and the manual button at the same time with no group number illuminated. The shade jogs and now I've set the bottom limit. So to test that out, we're going to go ahead and take the remote out of programming mode. We're going to go ahead and illuminate group 1 and the open button, and we're going to go ahead and check the operation of the shade. This looks awesome. The shade's going up to the top of the window. So there we go. We have our top limit set on the shade. We're going to go ahead and press the group 1 close button and run that shade down to its bottom limit. And just make sure the bottom limit's where we set the shade. And our bottom limit is set at 27 inches. Now we can go ahead and raise the shade and get it ready to go out to the home. Understand, if I'm the person going out to install this product, I need to know that I'm going to have to reprogram the shade to the home's radio frequency group. I used group 1 here in my situation testing the shade out, but going into the home to reinstall the shade, I'm going to have to reprogram that shade to its radio frequency group or rediscover that shade and reset it up within the PowerView app. And that's taking a look at how to replace the motor on a designer screen shade or roller shade cassette with PowerView.